Hey, Seekers, and welcome back to the Hanged Woman podcast. I'm your host, Julienne Irons, and this month we're exploring happiness through three lenses: practical, scientific, and energetic. Now, for our science episode, we're going to discover what research tells us about how happiness works in the brain and body. We're going to find out if it's genetic, and if we can actually rewire our brain for more joy. And for our energetic episodes, we're going to talk to Raquel V. Saga, who sees happiness not as a goal, but as a frequency. And Aisa Talia, who believes that joy is more than a feeling. It's a vibration that attracts what we desire. But first, we're going to dive into the practical side of happiness with two incredible guests, Mackenzie Stewart and Joel Drasner. Up first is the amazing Mackenzie Stewart. She's the intuitive life coach behind Mindset by Mackenzie, and she's going to help us uncover the key to happiness, which she believes lies in reconnecting with your true self. Not your job title, not your past, but the version of you that lights up when no one's watching. She'll share her 4-part From Fear to Freedom process, a step-by-step practical guide to moving confidently in the direction of your dreams. Mackenzie blends science and spirituality to help people move forward with clarity and confidence. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. I'm so happy to hang with you. Hey, fellow seekers. I'm taking a quick pause from the show to share something really close to my heart. And honestly, the only reason you're even listening to this podcast right now. It's Three of Cups. My sisters and I created Three of Cups, an Iron Sisters mission of love, as a space for healing, beauty, growth, and community, because we believe life is meant to be full, rich, and abundant in every way. We offer all kinds of ways to support you: energy healing, heart-centered art, even marketing that will help you enhance your brand's presence in the world. Because wherever you are in your journey, we want to help you feel seen, supported, and empowered. So if you're looking for something to help fill your cup in whatever way you need, come join us. Follow us on Instagram at 3 of Cups Healing, or explore all of our offerings at 3ofcupshealing.com. Because Seeker, your cup deserves to be full. And now, back to the episode. Mackenzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the coaching work that you do?
I like to start in the place we all start, which is our childhood, where as I was developing, I was always interested in human behavior. And as I got older, psychology, sociology, I took those college classes in high school. I was just so interested in the mind and how people function. And because the world is sort of set up how it is, when I got to the point where I went to college, a lot of the messages that I was getting, because you're an 18-year-old, is make sure that you're doing the right thing, the thing that's going to set you up for future success and make you money and, support your family and that sort of thing. And so the narratives that I was sort of fed from the people around me was that I couldn't make money doing that. That wasn't going to be a good steady job. There's not a lot of opportunities in that area. So I just sort of followed what other people told me. With that, I went to business school because that's the classic, right? If you don't know what to do, just go to business school and you'll be set up. In business school, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I took a marketing class and my professor was like, "You're really good at this," probably because I'm interested in human behavior. And she's like, "You should major in this. This is something that you could excel in." So again was like, "Okay, sure." Whatever everyone else tells me, right? When you're at that age. So literally just taking the steps that everyone else had told me to take, ended up in, a job in my field. I was in that industry for 6 years doing marketing. I had all the things, right? I had owned a home with my partner at the time at a young age. I had a new car. I had a, good job in my industry. All the things were lining up exactly how I was told that they should, right? The things that would make me happy. But as time went on, I just got more and more miserable. I was struggling with anxiety. I had perfectionism so bad. I was just the main thing I remember is just laying in bed at night, recalling my entire day and being so hard on myself, thinking about what people thought of me and I should have done this better. And oh my gosh, thinking about the future and what if this thing happens. But it was always very just centered on my narrow moments. Um, and then sort of the catalyst was I started working with a life coach, and she started asking me questions that I literally had never thought about in my entire life, like about my future and what I wanted for myself. And at the time, I just remember like not having answers to her questions. I would just like would sit there and I would like cry sometimes because I knew like something was waking up inside of me. And she asked a question that I remember totally broke me up open, which is like, is this sustainable? And that made me think of my future and where I could be in 5 years. And I had not thought about that in any capacity other than just, again, what other people had told me to do. So with that, everything changed very quickly. I moved from Iowa, where I'd been my entire life, to San Diego. I quit my job in the marketing industry. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it wasn't that. Um, yeah, moved here, spent a couple months figuring out what I wanted to do, came back to that original intention of like wanting to help people in that capacity and understanding ourselves. And then I literally just signed up for life coaching school within a couple months. And yeah, now I'm helping people do the same exact thing, which is determine what they want for their own lives instead of following what society or other people or expectations expect.
God, how freeing is that to be able to just follow your own path and do what you're
Yeah,
mean? Yeah, we're so
yeah,
taught, society tells us that we have to do certain things because other things aren't safe, right? We can't make the money we want to make doing the things that we love to do. And so you help people figure that out.
yeah, yeah. And it's hard when we're like, fed every single day what we should be doing, what the right things to do, what the scary thing you should never do is, all of that. And so it's hard to make decisions from yourself.
So, what inspires you to blend science and spirituality into your coaching approach?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because I'm very client focused. So I don't tell people what to do. I just ask them questions that pull out what's right for them. So with that, my coaching tends to be based on whatever comes up for the person. So I have clients who are very spiritual. I have clients who are very science based. So I'm sort of like leading with whatever their reality is, right? Like we choose the things that resonate with us and the things that speak to us. So with that, like if my client is more spiritual, I want to speak to that and I want that to be, the way that they're functioning and how they're navigating their life and using that as a tool to move in that direction. But then I have very logical and scientific clients, so then I can still speak to that and be able to help them through that. So the reason for that is that I want to be able to help people no matter what like how their mind works, right? So I believe that if I just lean one direction, then like I'd still be missing out on helping the people on the other side. So I feel like in a lot of ways we're saying the same things in different ways. And so for me, it's like, how can my messaging and how I support people resonate with people no matter where they're at?
So, let's talk about happiness. First of all, what do you think happiness is?
Big question. Yeah, that is a big question. What do I think happiness is? I want to end my life looking back and being like, I did all the things that I wanted to do. Like my life was filled with all of the things that I wanted to do. And I'm an Enneagram 7, so I like to do a lot of things and I like to travel and experience and that sort of thing. But from that perspective, for me, I'm thinking about spending time with my husband and just laying on the couch with him and laughing. I'm thinking about like being present with my dog instead of be absorbed in my work life and all that I need to get done. So for me, it's like looking at my life from that broader perspective and am I doing the things that fill me up? And that looks different all the time to me.
What's an Enneagram 7?
So an Enneagram, you can look it up. It's ENN, Enneagram. It's a personality test. So it's just another way of like helping you understand yourself. And an Enneagram 7 is an enthusiast. So we're like very optimistic, always wanting to do things, always looking at the, brighter side of life and wanting to experience all. And then the other side of the Enneagram, you can see sort of like your shadow side, which for us as sevens is often we can push our emotions down and not face some of the things, which is very ironic because that's sort of what we're talking about today and my coaching philosophy.
Your work is about not pushing away the fear, not pushing away those negative emotions. How does that help us find more happiness.
Yeah. Seems very like that would not be how it would work, right? It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I want to be happy, those hard feelings, those fears, like let me just shove them in a corner, right? And so for me, I had sort of like my big wake up moment inside of the story that I previously told was that I would have those repeating thoughts. So when I was laying in bed at night, it was just like very harsh voices and fears and like what ifs, and for me at that point, I felt like I could not deal with them, and I felt like it was something in me that other people didn't experience. And this is just the way I function. I'm just a more anxious person. And I reached the point where I was avoiding them so much that like I had to take sleeping pills every night. I felt like if I had to spend a moment alone by myself in a dark room, that would wreck me. That would be the end of me. So I would like always make sure that I took a sleeping pill so that I could just fall asleep and not have to face that. I would always come home. I worked pretty much like 9 to 10. I was also a dance instructor. So I was like always, coming home really late after a full day at my marketing job. And I would want a glass of wine as soon as I got home. So it was like I was working to avoid the voices or anything that happened and to make me feel worthy and valuable. And then any spaces in between had to be filled with something that would like keep me from facing that voice. So at the same, time when I was realizing that I couldn't just keep doing this, was I just going to keep functioning that way for my entire life? I was like, okay, something has to change. So my little story is I took a weekend where I had nothing and I was like, I'm just gonna lay in bed, not taking sleeping pill, not, have wine or anything, and just like face some of these thoughts. And at that time, I was starting to learn about like limiting beliefs, right? And that not everything we think is true, which I did not realize before. And so I could just like let those thoughts come through, and it felt really heavy and scary. But I realized that some of them, as soon as I just heard them and sat with them and like faced them, I could like my true self could just be like, oh, that's not true. Like that's not as heavy as it was weighing on me by putting it away. And then the second thing was I could gather some of those fears and be like that, look at them with more curiosity and be like, okay, maybe parts of this are true. Maybe there's parts that like as I'm stepping into something new, I can make myself feel more safe, or there's information here that I can use to help myself move forward. So in that, like viewing it from the perspective of like not everything you think is true, and then to like the awareness from that can inform my next steps and what I need to be able to move forward in the direction that I want to. So that was my original story, and now something that I help other people do. So just like the awareness from that space, these are just wounded parts of ourselves that from different experiences throughout our lives or different things that we've taken on from society and outside external voices. And so as soon as we look at them, they're just not as scary as we think they are.
There feels like there's a lot of scary things. Like when you just look at it from the surface level of what it is, I'm sick, or I don't have the money, or whatever that thing is that's bringing up that fear for you. So what you're saying is if you stop and you get aware and you get curious about what that situation is, you really come to understand that it's actually not as scary as you think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like a lot of different ways of looking at it depending on your situation, but like sometimes it's more just action based. Like you mentioned the money stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm really scared if I start my own business that I'm not going to be able to make enough money to sustain myself, right? Or like how can I leave my full-time job? And sometimes it's like, well, what are the narratives that I'm carrying, right? Like I can't do that. I could never do that. No one else is doing that. Some of the stuff can just be sort of flushed away as soon as we look at it. But then from a different perspective, it's like, well, what do I need to feel safe in making this move, right? Some people, I just like dropped everything. That's like my way of doing it. But other people, it's like, okay, I am worried that I won't be able to have money. What are the things that I can put in place to reassure that part of me that I am safe, right? Or I'm being logical about this. I'm not just going to drop this and like leave myself in a very scary situation. So like even just looking at that with more compassion instead of like this is an annoying thought, I just want to start my business. What can we do with that to support that voice as we're moving through to where we want to go in our lives.
Right. So having the thought, getting curious about it, and then taking purposeful, aligned action in order to help us get to that next place where the fear doesn't reside.
Yes. Or a new fear resides.
Or new fear resides. That we can just go back to step one.
Over and over and over again.
And how does working through the fears allow us to find more happiness?
My belief is that we all have something in us that is craving more, like came to this lifetime and is like, I came here for a reason. I have a mission. I have something to do. And I feel like, or I know a lot of that has been squandered, right? But if you're listening to this podcast or if you're one of us, like we know we have that burning desire in our heart, right? And so as soon as that's uncovered, and we have that like, okay, I know I want to start my business. I know I, hate this job, I have to change it. I know I want a more fulfilling relationship. Like once you have that clarity, it feels so painful to not move towards that. It feels like the worst thing ever to just be stuck in that space of knowing what you want for your life and not moving towards it, not knowing how to get there, that sort of thing. And this to me is like, this is the everything that keeps us stuck there, right? Like if we understand this piece, then we can be able to move in that direction. And to me, like as a life purpose coach, if we're moving in that direction, then that is part of what provides us fulfillment in life, our life, right? And so for some of us, maybe that's like owning our own business and being, having this greater mission to serve. For some of us, maybe it's just like having a family or having like a simple life as long as they're, happy and content. And so like no matter what that is, we have something that we're moving towards. And so this is the thing that keeps us from experiencing that, in my opinion.
And how do we know when we're ready to make that switch?
Yeah, I think everyone's at a very different spot. I think some of us realize our dreams or realize what we want for ourselves, and we make ourselves suffer for a long time before we move in that direction. And then others of us, like we have that again burning desire and we're like, I have to do it. What I see most often, which I would love to see less, is that phrase of when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then that's where we change. So I see a lot of people coming in when they're like, I'm totally burnt out, I don't know where to go. They've just like sort of lost everything and they're coming to me being like, I don't even know where to go, but they know something has to change, right? So like that pain is the indicator for them. I would love to see less of that and love to see more of people just like having that sort of gut reaction of like, this is where I want to go and I know something has to change to get there.
How do you, as a life coach, help people to find happiness, to release the fears? What is your role in how we accomplish that?
The first thing that I do is sort of like a full life assessment. Most people are like, I know I'm miserable in this area. My career, relationships, those are the most often ones I see, or financial. And so we start by doing like a self discovery where it's like, here's all the different areas, like even from physical health, mental health, finances, relationships, lifestyle, fun and leisure, looking at your life from a holistic spot. And you'll start to notice like the themes throughout these different spaces that it's like, oh, that pattern is showing up there, but that pattern is showing up there. And so sometimes we get fixated on the one thing we want to make changes in, but when we look at ourselves from a holistic standpoint, we can start to see, oh, well, if I spent a little bit more time here, right, like on my mental or physical health, then I know that that would be supportive and me getting clear on where I want to take my relationship, right? So sometimes we're like pounding the pavement, we're being like, I know I want to change this relationship, something has to change, he needs to change, and we just like so focused there that when we zoom out, we can start to see like, oh, if I took care of myself in this way, then like that would lead me in the direction that I need to go for myself. So starting from a holistic spot as far as where do you want to be in each and every one of those areas. So not just the main ones. And so if everything worked out, if you could have everything that you wanted, what would you want your lifestyle to look like? What would you want your weeks to look like? How do you want your physical health to be? Every single thing instead of just like keeping your mind fixated on one area, which is very common. So then we have a clear path on here's where I would want to go if everything could work out, if I had all the resources and the money in the world and fear and all of these limitations weren't stopping me, right? And so then with that, we make goals around like what's sort of like our next indicated step in moving in those directions, what would be supportive in you moving towards the goal that's most important to you. So, life coaching is always forward focused. So, of course, you'll notice like some themes and patterns. It's like, oh, that, that voice came from my mom or that voice came from my teacher or whatever. But it's never like digging into that situation or understanding your trauma or anything in the past. It's always, here's where you're at coming into today. And how do we move towards what you want, knowing this is where we're at right now. So with that, it's like goal focused and we start working towards those goals. So my clients have like weekly commitments that they're working towards and they're having like their baselines and the projects that they're working towards. And then as things come up, as they do naturally, then that's where it's like, okay, I tried to do this thing. Maybe I started, have an interview next week and I'm having all of this fear come up. Then that's where we would look at it and, what's going on here, get under the hood, and then get them feeling more confident and more clear on how to go into that situation, right? So it's like, here's the path forward. We know all these roadblocks are going to come up, some of which we can identify ahead of time, and there's a lot of things that come up on the way to chasing your dreams that you can't anticipate. So being able to support people through all that comes up during that time.
So I hear a lot in like the self-help world, especially when it comes to happiness and finding peace and finding joy, that one of the things that we have to do is dig in to the trauma and dig into the pain and heal that part of us that was hurt before we can move on. But you just said that you don't dig into it.
Well, here's something that I will add. I actually agree with that in some capacity. I am a big advocate for therapy. I've gone to therapy a long time. There's, on and off moments where I definitely need it. Maybe a little less than half of my clients go to therapy and me at the time. So I am a big advocate for like that. There are points where you can't move in the direction that you need. And so I support people when they're at that stage where they can move through it. And I also am very cognizant that sometimes people aren't at the stage where a life coach would serve them, if that makes sense. With that, if someone was experiencing extreme grief or depression or those sort of things, then that would not be my space to serve and support them. For me personally, I think it's best to speak from that space. Of course, there's still things that are coming up from my past that every day like I'm facing or like come up for me. But to me, this comes back to our true self and our intuition. My therapist actually told me this of like, I'm so interested in patterns and understanding everything that sometimes I put myself in a space where I'm digging into something that doesn't necessarily need to be dug into right now, right? Which we could do every single day. And so with that, I trust my true self to dig into that thing when it's time to dig into that thing. So if I'm feeling stuck or if I'm experiencing a lot of emotions or like the same thought is coming up or the same, incident is repeating in my mind, then that for me is my indication that like maybe there is something from my past to work through, if that makes sense. Recently this week, a client had something come up from her past and it was a thought and she knew how that was related to her current narrative that she was experiencing. And so with that, it was like, okay, how do we move forward, right? Like what resources do you need? Also, there's just awareness and like, okay, this is coming up for me again in this new space. And the more in-depth digging into that situation, finding acceptance, that's something she will and has worked with her therapist on. But there's still things that we can move forward with in the same direction without spending so much time focused on that exact situation.
You talked about using your intuition and your gut. In the work that you do, how do we use our intuition and our gut to help us find more happiness?
To me, our intuition is always speaking to us. And that's why I love client-centered work where I'm asking the questions because they'll have an immediate response or they'll give me like an I don't know. But if you just sit and stare at them, then they'll eventually tell you what their actual answer is. So almost like coaching provides a container for people to start to see that. And then again, fear is often the thing that's getting in the way of them knowing that part of themselves, right? But even like our true self, our intuition, that even lives in the process of uncovering and working through our fears as well, right? Like everything where it's like for this woman, for her to immediately be like, this is where this is coming from. I know this thought, and this came from this experience in college. To me, that's your intuition, right? So it's providing spaces for you to have an opportunity to answer things for yourself. Like in our world, we're not asking people questions all the time. We're often telling people what to do. And so as soon as someone asks you the question and you actually get to think about what do I think about that, it starts to uncover what you actually think about it. And sometimes different answers will come up, but as you sort through the layers, you can find what's true for you too. So you can start to answer questions and be like, oh, this is what I would do. Wait, never mind. That actually doesn't feel right for some reason. That's actually something from this other place. Here's what I actually think about it.
I love that you said this doesn't feel right for some reason. Is it fair to say that sometimes what our intuition and what our gut is saying might not make logical sense, but we still have that feeling that it is the right thing to do and the right direction to go in?
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. I think that that's why people choose to work with coaches because they know something's up. They're like, for some reason, I'm feeling called to do this thing, right? Or like, I know I can't stay in this situation. And logically, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, I've even had people that are living such fabulous lives and they're, doing all the things that they wanted to do, but they know that something's off, right? And so I feel like no matter who you are, you do have indicators of that in big ways and small ways, in ways that for some of us identify like as a spiritual, something that's spiritual to us. Other people it is, they call it logical or science, but often there is something that comes up for people that it is like, this is what I know to be true for myself.
Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. The Empress's heart is art made from love, loss, and flowers. Every piece begins with intention, rooted in the belief that beauty can bloom from even the heaviest seasons of life. Using real pressed flowers, crystals, and feathers, the Empress's heart transforms grief and memory into something tangible. A reminder that joy, love, and connection can live alongside loss. From one-of-a-kind works for your home to deeply personal custom pieces, each creation holds a story. Every petal is placed with care, every detail chosen with purpose. Whether it's honoring a loved one, celebrating new beginnings, or simply adding beauty to your space, the Empress's heart is here to help fill your home and your heart with something meaningful. Fill your heart and your cup at threeofcupshealing.com. So why is reconnecting with what lights us up so vital to our happiness and so vital to living a joyful life?
Yeah, I always think of those. I don't know if you've seen those videos of people like in the rat race. They'll like show a picture of hundreds of people, going into the office and then getting in the car and then sitting in traffic and then going to the grocery store and then standing in line and they just like get more depleted and depleted with time. And that's how I view it. The more we're doing things that don't light us up, the like we'll feel it and even our physical body will start to feel different symptoms. We'll start to get sick. We'll start to feel more tired. That, and then of course mentally and the impact that we're having, we're probably experiencing more emotions or we're probably experiencing more apathetic ways of viewing things. And so to me, the less aligned you are with your true self, the more we start to lead in that direction. Or for me, it was those super anxious thoughts and like avoiding myself and just working myself to death when I didn't know what was aligned for me. So that is the way of the coming back to the phrase of like when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then that's sort of what puts people on a different trajectory of, okay, there has to be a different way to do this, right? Like We are not built for this. We are not built for this way of life. And people do know that. Like they'll have the different moments where they're sitting at their cubicle and they're like, this can't be it, right? Like this cannot be it. I can't be like away from my child or taking one vacation a year where I feel happy and I'm just excited to escape my life. There has to be more than this. And so for me, it's like, I believe that that can absolutely 100% happen for people in the way that they desire. And what are the little baby steps that people can take along the way to start connecting them with a more meaningful life?
Okay, so let's talk about those steps because you have a process called From Fear to Freedom. Can you walk us through what that process is?
Yeah, so this is sort of like, again, a different framework where I'm providing like these different containers for individuals, like outside of an individual setting for coaching. These are like different containers of things that people can look at. And there's some parts of the framework that really hit people because it's what they need. And then sometimes it's like, oh, this is the exact process that I need. But I think that the biggest one is number one, which is just facing that fear, like starting to look at it with a lens of curiosity and start to be like, what am I feeling? Like just asking the simple questions. What am I feeling? What am I wanting to work towards? And how am I being held back? What are the narratives that I'm telling myself are true? So just starting to face it like we've been talking about. The second part is, and this is maybe coming back to your question about when people change, is understanding the cost of staying the same. So for me, when my coach had asked, is this sustainable? To me, I started to see like the cost of me staying in this is my health, my like that was me running through the rat race. I was like losing everything. I was not working towards anything. I had gotten where everyone else told me to do, but I was feeling miserable. I couldn't just keep escaping myself. And so when you recognize, like, if you don't change this in a year from now, if you are exactly where you are now, in 5 years, 10 years from now, you're exactly where you are now, like, how would that impact you? Right. And so, with asking some of those questions and facing the reality of, like, if you don't make these changes, how will that impact the entirety of your life? And really sitting with that, that can be the catalyst for change. So just understanding the cost of staying where you're at. And then with the insights from those two steps, you can start to rewrite your narrative. Like a big one that comes up is a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset is something where you're like, this is who I am. I can't get better at this. Like I will never improve. And a growth mindset is like, I'm learning from everything. I'm just going to take a step. I'm going to, gain information from that step and move forward without beating myself up or telling myself that all these things about my self-worth, right? So the narrative can change knowing that that's maybe something that you often struggle with, right? So, I want to start doing more podcasts. Okay, so from the beginning, it's like all of these fears about I'm not good enough and I don't speak eloquently and all of those things. And then with your new narrative, you can say, hey, I'm just going to get started. I'm going to get practice. I'm going to get my reps in. And I know that I'll improve with every step that I take, right? So information from the beginning now being intertwined with your new narrative that you're going to take on. And so then you can start to move in the direction that you want to with bringing those things that you're struggling with along with you.
It's not like the new story is like the end picture. It's not like, I'm the best at podcasting. It's like, no, let's just start where we feel safe, where the growth feels like possible, and then we can keep growing from there.
Totally. Absolutely. That's such a good point because let's say, this person is working on doing more podcasting and they say something like that. And I know I'm sure this is totally up your alley with like the affirmations and stuff like that, which I do think are helpful. But if you can't get behind it from a logical or energetic standpoint, then that's just going to bring up more fears, like in a different direction, right? It's like, no, we're not the best podcaster. We don't have the equipment and we haven't done enough and blah, blah, blah. Then you will be back to step one. So it's like, what can you get behind in this new narrative that you can actually believe so you can start moving in the direction that you want to?
Love that. Okay. So the next step.
Last step, of course, in coaching is just taking the next brave step. So what is that based on the rest of the process that's coming up for you to actually start putting things into motion? So starting to reach out to people for podcasting or maybe doing a practice podcast with yourself or a friend or something like that. So taking, instead of just the internal work or just journaling or just doing the meditation or whatever. It's like, how do you take all of that and then actually put it into practice and start moving in the direction that you want to go?
And I feel like as we do these things, as we take these steps, we find like hot spots of joy in the process because now we're doing what we actually love to do. And even though it might be challenging, and even though we might not know exactly what we're doing, we're still doing what we love to do. And so there's still these moments of like, oh my God, this makes me feel so happy. Like this makes me feel so much joy, like a sense of satisfaction, which is very different from sitting in a cubicle wondering if this is it.
A lot of fulfillment comes from challenging ourselves, right? And moving towards that vision that we have for ourselves is challenging. And so, like, we might be putting ourselves in more uncomfortable situations, but we get energy from that and like from overcoming things and putting ourselves in a situation where we're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do it in this. And then learning from it and gaining information from it and that sort of thing. And I think that ties into another point, which is, and I know that you believe this too, of like, in this journey of life, we're meant to experience things and learn things and gain things from all that is happening. And so if I'm just living the same life day after day, you know, getting in my car, going to my cubicle, going home, drinking my wine, watching Netflix, like there's not much to be insight to be gained from that. Like there's not much for me to be growing from. And me personally, and I believe this to be true for most people, is that we gain happiness and fulfillment from growing towards what we came here to do as well.
So, what's one example of a client transformation you witnessed through this process so that we can all be inspired and expanded to do this beautiful work that you shared?
Yes, yes. Well, I have a client that it's so fun. We've been working together for several years now, and she's made huge changes. But I feel like this is the biggest component of her work that has been the catalyst for her. She left her corporate job. She started her own company. She's now traveling in Bali. Like she's literally living a completely different life than she was 3 or 4 years ago when we started working together. And this still comes up for her. So I feel like instead of starting at the point where it's like, what was that first thing that got her to this point? It's knowing that like this is still something that comes up for her with where she's at. And so actually in a session last week, she was like, I am having all of these old thoughts come up. It's so weird, you know, like I'm in this space, I'm living my best life, and I'm just like noticing these old patterns, and it's so annoying. And I want it to go away. I'm living in Bali, like, let me enjoy myself. And it was sort of like a moment of like, we've been here before, right? Like, what do we think lives here? What do we think is here? And so with that, we were able to tune into this part of herself and the way that she identifies with it, because we're all different. And with that, she actually understood that this part of her, that self that she was cutting off, is a part of herself that provides her with so much of her gifts, her personal intuition, her sensitivity and ability to tune into people. Like a lot of what she's trying to work towards, this part of her is a big asset in that. Like she's able to gain so much of her intuition from this space and like know the direction, and she needs this part of her to create the life that she's working towards. And so she had been pushing it away and like, this is annoying, these things you're telling me. I totally get this, because it's like, you know, when you're working towards it and you're like, you know, feeling the energy and you're like, cool, I'm like making progress and all these things are happening. You're like, the last thing you want is any anxiety or fear to come in. You're like, no, I'm in my moment. Please stay back there. So with that, we looked at it. We realized, you know, her insight from this framework was that like this is a big asset to her. Like she needs to carry this part with her. It helps her tune into people and know the direction she needs to take. And there are some fears that this part of her has, but when we were able to look at them, it was like, actually, those are pretty valid. That makes sense. I'm in this completely new moment of my life. And of course, that's scary. Like, of course, it's scary for me to be trying these new things and moving in that direction. So, with that, it was like, instead of it feeling really loud because we've been pushing it away, letting her just tune into it whenever it comes. So, if she, you know, the next day is working on something and she starts to feel those thoughts, her taking a second and being like, what's coming up for me and what can I do to help myself feel safe and secure as I take these steps that feel a little scary, right? So she was able to work with that part, knowing she needs to take that part with her moving forward, and now has like tools to work with it in this new way.
I love that so much because what I'm hearing is that instead of judging those thoughts, I mean, there might have been some judgment at first, like, oh, I don't want to have these thoughts. I've been doing the work. I shouldn't be having these thoughts right now. But instead of just staying in that judgment zone, she tapped into curiosity. So, how can we approach our fears from curiosity rather than judgment?
It is so hard. Like this is the work that I do, and I still am frequently like, come on, man, I just want to be in my zone. So it is such a challenge. And it looks different for everyone. For me, it's often like starting my day just tuning into that. So I feel most aligned in the mornings because I'm able to do that practice. So I just free write like everything that comes to me. I'm not trying to negate any feelings that are happening. I let myself share all my feelings and all the fears and all the things that are coming up for me. Like I look ahead in the day. So this is actually a really good practice. Look ahead in your day. Ask yourself, like, what do I have going on in my day that maybe I'm feeling a little nervous or anxious or scared about? And just let yourself write from that space. Like, here's what I'm worried about. I don't know how this person's thinking about this thing. What if this thing happens? Oh my gosh, I have this other thing that's, I'm launching or whatever. And this is where I'm feeling about that. Like, looking through your day, all the things that your mind and you are carrying throughout your day that you don't maybe let yourself think about. Like, can you give yourself just a space to put it all out there? And as soon as you write it down, you will immediately start to notice that like everything we've talked about is sort of happening, right? Like, oh, I'm actually not that nervous about that. Or, oh, here's like a tool that I can use to set myself up to make sure that I'm feeling good about this conversation that I'm going to have, right? So letting yourself actually tune in and see what you need to be able to move with your fears.
The fear of looking at the thing is what is keeping us stuck. But if we actually just look at the thing, we end up taking the power away because we realize it's not that big, which is what you said, obviously, at the top. And that's what that practice helps us to do.
Yeah, which is hilarious because on a micro macro level, how funny is that like our fear of facing it is the thing that we need to work through. Maybe that's something you could write in your journal and be like, I'm afraid to even write this down. This is my fear. I'm afraid to let these voices come through. So yeah, it's just creeping around every corner.
I know you shared a couple of practices with us already, but do you have any other practices that you recommend from moving from fear to freedom?
I also, and I'm just sharing this one, but I love all Oracle decks and using different tools like that. So I have my own that I created that's a mantra and Oracle deck that is for the spiritual, spiritually curious, and not spiritual at all. So it resonates with people no matter where they're at. And so that is a tool that I also use every morning. So every single morning I pull a card and just like what's the first immediate thing that comes to you. So today I pulled the lead card. And so just pulling that, I was like, okay, I automatically feel more confident. And then it also puts me in the framework of like, today, what can I do to be the best leader that I can possible for my clients or the people that come around me, right? So I feel like that's a really good way to just tune in and be like, whatever is coming up for you with where you're at will show itself in whatever way that resonates with you. So yeah, I love that. And the other thing I just want to add in this space, because in listening to podcasts, there's so many ideas and it's like, just meditate this amount of time or just work through this framework or whatever it is. And I'm a big advocate for everything works and it's finding what works for you. I don't think there's any morning routine that is like perfect, right? And if everyone followed this, then like we would all be enlightened and everything would be happy, right? It's like what tool really resonates with you for you to be able to tune in, for you to be able to work with your fears. And that's why the framework is set up the way that it is, because maybe some people, when they realize the cost of staying where they are, that's like what sparks what's next for them. That's maybe their like breaking point where they're like, I can't do this anymore and I have to move forward. But for other people, maybe it's like, oh, I just needed to rewrite this narrative. And now I have the clarity that I needed to take. Or other people might already have all of this awareness and they just haven't taken the next step, right? So, like in this space, I would be like, where are you at in that process? Maybe what sparked for you in this conversation, and how can you like pinpoint where you're at right there in your own process to move in the direction that you want to go. So, kind of ambiguous, but also I feel like very important.
Okay, so I was actually inspired by looking at your cards earlier, and you just inspired me right now. Can you do a collective pull of the card for people that are listening right now?
Yes, I actually thought about messaging you before and asking if we could do that.
Ah, see, we're so in tune, Mackenzie.
I love it. I was like pulling my card this morning. I was like, it'd be actually really cool to pull one for everybody. I'll pull for everyone, and then I won't read the entire guidebook, but here's a good practice for us right now. I'll pull a card. I'll just read the card, show the image, and read like the tagline, and then just give everyone a second to tune into themselves and what that means to them at this moment. So you and I can maybe both share what came for us, where we're at, and then everyone else can be thinking about like maybe how that resonates with them where they're at. So this is a good practice in intuition with where everyone's at.
And I'll add the card on one of our posts so people can see it.
Amazing. Okay. This is a perfect one for our conversation. Align with your purpose. Reconnect to your why. And this is the
Oh, and it's a journal. Stop it. Just stop. It's a hand with a pen and they're writing in a journal. This is so good.
Can I ask you what comes up for you in that card?
Yes. So align with my purpose. What's coming up for me intuitively is to stand strong in the work that I'm doing with my sisters right now and like hold the line and trust because I am so sure that this is my purpose is to be here creating with my family, to be here on this planet as a light, to be here as a creator. And it's just more confirmation that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So to reconnect with my why, okay, so let me just start by saying I've been having so much anxiety right now about just like life in general. There's a lot of scary things happening in the world. I feel like sometimes my life feels a little bit up and down. I mean, I'm starting on a new endeavor with my sisters, and things sometimes feel a little bit shaky. And so the reconnection with my why is helped me to see that my why is my truth. My why is the reason why it's safe to go along with this shakiness. I know my vision. I know why I'm here. I know it's to create a future for I call my nieces and nephews my littles. So it's to create a future for my littles. It's to create a future for myself. It's to expand on the love that my sisters and I have. So I can deal with the shaky. I can deal with the uncertainty because my why is so strong. And that just gave me so much power. Like that made me feel like like a breath of relief.
Love it. I love it. I literally got chills when you were saying that. I'm so glad we pulled this card because I feel like that ties so perfectly, obviously, into our entire conversation. But also, when you address like some of the fears and you like let yourself go there, and then like I feel like for you, if you were going through the framework, your cost of staying the same, your why would have come up for you. You would have been like, I can't do this. Like I need to do this, for my family and my future. And there's something in me that knows that this is my mission and I'm here to serve in this way. And so then like with that power, when you were speaking, I was like, holy crap, like there's something here, right? Like that is what will work for you and carry you forward. So like if you come back to that and use that as your strength, then when the fears come up, like this can be your anchor, like you said, with the shakiness, like this is your anchor to keep you grounded in your truth and what you're moving towards when things are feeling shaky.
What was yours?
Well, mine is similar, right? Because we're both entrepreneurs. But I'm like, my first thought was I'm having so much fun in this conversation. I want to be having more conversations like this and that, yeah, align with my purpose. Like this is definitely what I feel like I'm meant to do here. And like when I look back on my life and the experiences that I've had and be able to like share my story, which I don't always do, only in cases like this, I'm like, that like everything there and all of my experiences to this point are for me to support others in making the same changes, right? And so yeah, just being able to have this conversation with you in a way that I don't get to every day and talk about these concepts every day this way, I'm like, I need to be doing more of this. I want to be doing more of this. And like, how can I get myself into spaces? And so, like, with this deck, it has 3 reflection questions for people to journal on. And then it gives like a mantra. So everything's always forward focused, right? So it's like an oracle deck where it's not just like, here's what's going on. It's like, here's what's maybe resonating with you. And like, what are we going to do about it? So, like, how can you take the next step from the information that came up for you? So, yeah, reconnect to your why, align with your purpose. For me, from a forward focus standpoint, I was like, how can I be getting into more conversations like this? Like, how can I be talking about these concepts more and helping more people get into their power, just like you did?
I love that so much. Mackenzie, this has been so amazing. The question that I'm asking every guest at the end of our time together is, what is happiness to you? Not as a teaching lesson, not as like a guide for anything, but like for you personally, what does happiness mean to you?
Happiness to me means that I am doing everything that I want to do in my life. That again, to that like outward perspective, I always go to that. I want to live each day, each week, each month, each year until the end of my time where I can look back and be like, that is exactly how I would have imagined it for myself. And on the way to chasing what I want for my life, that this is the biggest part, that I'm enjoying where I'm at. Like I'm enjoying where I'm at and I'm present with where I'm at. And I am so career focused. But again, like those moments with my husband and my friends and my dogs, like that is part of my happiness. So moving towards what we want and enjoying every part of it along the way.
I love that so much. Do you feel complete?
I do feel complete. Thank you so much.
Mackenzie, where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Mindset by Mackenzie, MACK. And then my website's also mindsetbymackenzie.com.
I love it so much. Thank you, Mackenzie. This has been an absolute treat.
So fun. Thank you very much.
So there's something so powerful about choosing curiosity over fear. I mean, whether you're deeply logical or highly spiritual or somewhere in between like I am, Mackenzie's framework is such a grounded, intuitive tool. And honestly, I'm really curious to know what came up for you when that card was pulled. Aligning with your purpose and reconnecting with your why. What do you want to align with? What why are you reconnecting to? Leave a comment and let me know, because honestly, I am so curious to know how that shifted you. Now, next week, we're staying in the practical with Joel Drasner. And I gotta say, his perspective is really unique. Joel has a radical and peaceful approach to happiness that I promise you will leave you shifted. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. Until next time, hang in there, seekers.